Captain Jack Miller sat in his chair on the bridge of the USS Freedom, looking out at the stars. The ship was on its third month exploring the outer regions of human space. Everything had been quiet so far, which suited Jack just fine. "Captain," said Commander Ryan Carter, his first officer, "we're getting some strange readings. There's something big coming our way." Jack leaned forward. "What kind of big?" "Very big, sir. It's at least 5 times our size." Before Jack could respond, the lights dimmed and the ship shook slightly. Outside the main window, a massive shadow blocked out the stars. The bridge crew gasped as an enormous vessel emerged from the darkness. It was unlike anything in their database, black and angular, with sharp edges that seemed designed to intimidate. "Red. Alert," Jack ordered, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "All hands to battle stations." Dr. Lisa Brooks, the ship's xenobiologist, pulled up data on her screen. "Captain, I'm not finding any matches for that ship design in our files." The massive ship turned slowly to face them. Jack could see weapons ports opening along its hull. This was not good. "Incoming transmission," reported Lieutenant Kate Wilson from Communications. On screen. The view screen flickered to life, showing a creature that made the whole bridge go silent. It was huge, at least 8 feet tall, with scaled skin that gleamed like oil. Sharp teeth lined its jaw, and its eyes were dark pits that seemed to swallow light. When it spoke, its voice was deep and rumbling. "I am Admiral Vextar of the Krillian Empire. You will surrender immediately." Jack stood up straight. "This is Captain Jack Miller of the USS Freedom. We're on a peaceful exploration mission. We mean you no harm." The alien laughed, a sound like grinding stones. "Peaceful? You are prey, human. Small and weak. Your ship will make a fine addition to our war fleet." Chief Engineer Matt Johnson worked quickly at his station. "Captain, their weapons are charging. They have enough firepower to turn us into space dust." Jack's mind raced. They were outgunned and outnumbered. Fighting would be suicide. He needed to buy time. "Admiral Vextar, surely a warrior of your reputation, understands the value of proper protocol. We haven't had time to..." "Enough talk." Vextar's clawed hand slapped against something off screen. "Prepare for boarding. You will submit to inspection." The transmission cut off. Jack turned to his crew, all of whom were staring at him with worry in their eyes. "Options?" he asked. Ryan Carter shook his head. "If we run, they'll blast us before we reach warp." "If we fight, same result," added Matt Johnson. Dr. Lisa Brooks adjusted her glasses nervously. "Captain, the Krillians have a reputation. They're known as the most feared predators in this quadrant. No one fights them and lives." Jack nodded slowly. "Then we let them board. Everyone remain calm. Follow their orders. We'll figure this out as we go." What he didn't tell his crew was that he was worried about more than just the ship. In his quarters was something that technically violated several space exploration regulations, something that could get him in serious trouble with Earth Command. His cat, Whiskers. The small tabby had somehow found his way into Jack's luggage the day before launch. By the time Jack discovered the stowaway, they were already in deep space. Sending Whiskers back would have meant delaying the mission by months. Besides, Jack couldn't bear the thought of leaving his pet alone on Earth while he explored the stars. So Whiskers stayed, hidden in Jack's quarters, known only to a few trusted crew members. The cat spent his days sleeping, playing with toy mice, and occasionally watching the stars through the window. Now, as Jack prepared to face the galaxy's most dangerous predators, he wondered if having a pet aboard was the least of his worries. The docking procedure was rough. The Krillian ship latched onto the Freedom with magnetic clamps that made the whole vessel groan under the strain. Warning lights flashed as airlocks aligned. "Captain," said Dr. Amy Peterson, the ship's psychologist, joining them on the bridge. "I've read about the Krillians. They respect strength and despise weakness. We need to show them we're not afraid." Jack nodded, though his knees felt weak. "Crew, remember your training. Stand tall. Make eye contact. Don't show fear." The airlock. Doors opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The first Krillian to enter had to duck under the doorway. Its armor was black and covered in wicked spikes. Behind it came more warriors, each one massive and terrifying. Admiral Vextar entered last. He looked even bigger in person, his presence filling the bridge. When he moved, his armor clicked and clattered with weapons and devices. "So," he said, scanning the crew with those dark eyes. "These are the humans, even smaller than our report suggested." He walked among them, his clawed feet clicking on the deck. Each step seemed purposeful, calculated to intimidate. The crew stood their ground, though Jack could see sweat on several foreheads. "Your technology is primitive," Vextar announced, examining a console. "Your weapons are toys. Why do you venture into space when you are so weak?" Jack spoke carefully. "We explore to learn, to understand. We believe knowledge makes us stronger." Vextar laughed again. "Knowledge? What good is knowledge when you cannot defend yourselves?" He turned to his warriors. "Begin the inspection. Catalog everything. This ship and its crew will serve the Krillian Empire." As the alien warriors spread out through the ship, Jack's heart sank. They would search everywhere. They would find his quarters. "They would find Captain," whispered Ensign Tyler Williams from the helm. "What about, in your quarters?" Jack's blood ran cold. If the Krillians found Whiskers, they might see it as an attempt to hide something. They might react violently. Or worse, they might hurt his pet. "Admiral," Jack said quickly, "my quarters are personal. Surely your warriors can inspect the rest of the ship while respecting basic privacy?" Vextar's head tilted, those dark eyes narrowing. "Privacy? You speak of privacy to me? Everything here belongs to the Krillian Empire now. Every room, every secret." He gestured to two of his warriors. "Search the captain's quarters first. Bring me anything interesting you find." Jack felt helpless as the warriors moved toward his quarters. He had to warn Whiskers somehow, but how? Could he do it without arousing suspicion? As the bridge crew watched in tense silence, a small sound echoed through the ship's intercom system. It was faint, barely noticeable, but Jack recognized it immediately. Meow. The sound froze everyone. Even the Krillians stopped moving. Vextar's head snapped toward the intercom speaker. "What was that?" the alien admiral demanded. Jack's mind raced. He had to think of something. "Oh, that's just a maintenance sound. Our systems need regular meow." The second sound was clearer, closer. It was coming from the ventilation shaft above the bridge. Jack looked up, his heart dropping as he saw what the Krillians couldn't. A small orange face peered down through the vent grating. Two bright green eyes stared at the assembled warriors. A fluffy tail twitched with curiosity. Whiskers had found his way out of Jack's quarters and was now exploring the ventilation system. The cat had never seen aliens before. To him, these giant predators were just interesting new friends to investigate. Jack turned to his crew, all of whom had noticed the cat but were trying hard not to look at it. The last thing they needed was to draw the Krillians' attention upward. "As I was saying," Jack spoke louder, trying to cover any more sounds from above. "Our inspection protocols are quite thorough. Perhaps we could provide you with a full technical report while your warriors conduct their search." Vextar moved closer to Jack, his massive form towering over the captain. "You seem nervous, human. What are you hiding?" Above them, completely unnoticed by the aliens, Whiskers began to make his way along the ventilation shaft toward the cargo bay, where the main inspection was about to begin. The cargo bay was the largest open space on the USS Freedom. Usually it held supplies and equipment needed for their exploration mission. Now, it was filling with Krillian warriors inspecting everything they could find. "Open those containers," ordered a Krillian officer pointing with his massive clawed hand. The officer was slightly smaller than Admiral Vexatar, but still dwarfed the human crew members. Two human cargo workers, Sam Williams and Ben Harris, moved to open the requested containers. Their hands shook slightly as they worked, but they tried to keep steady. Behind them, 6 Krillian warriors watched with their dark, unblinking eyes. Dr. Hannah Green, the ship's botanist, stood nearby with a data pad. "These containers hold plant samples from our last planet survey," she explained, hoping information might help the situation. "We were collecting data for Earth's botanical database." The Krillian officer sneered, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Plants? You waste your cargo space on vegetation, no wonder your species is so weak." Above them, high in the ventilation system, Whiskers continued his exploration. The cat was fascinated by all the new smells and sounds. His paws made tiny clicking noises on the metal as he walked, but the noise was lost in the general commotion below. Back on the bridge, Admiral Vextar was growing impatient. "Your inspection is taking too long," he told Captain Jack. "Perhaps your crew needs motivation to show us what you're hiding." "We're not hiding anything," Jack insisted, trying to keep his voice calm. "We're a peaceful exploration vessel, so you keep saying." Vextar moved to the tactical station where Lieutenant Kate Wilson was monitoring ship systems. "Weapons officer, show me your arsenal." Kate looked to her captain, who nodded. "We have standard defensive plasma cannons and basic shielding. Nothing compared to your technology." "Open the weapons manifest," Vextar ordered. As Kate brought up the data, a new sound echoed through the bridge's intercom. It was different from Whiskers' earlier meows. This was a chirping, trilling sound that cats make when hunting. Vextar's head jerked toward the sound. "What is that noise?" "Could be our communication system needs adjustment," offered Commander Ryan Carter quickly. "Sometimes we get interference on long-range frequencies." But then they heard it clearly. "Murrow?" The sound came from the cargo bay. Jack felt his stomach drop. Whiskers had reached his destination. In the cargo bay, the inspection was reaching its climax. The Krillian officer was examining a container of medical supplies when something caught his attention. A shadow moved across the wall. "Alert status," he barked to his warriors. Something moved. The Krillians immediately formed a defensive circle, weapons ready. Their training kicked in automatically. Even in exploration vessels, they expected danger. Sam Williams knew he had to act fast. "It's probably just the air circulation system. These older ships have some quirks," but the Krillian officer wasn't satisfied. "Search the area, find the source of that movement." Above them, Whiskers had found an interesting spot. A large ventilation grate gave him a perfect view of the cargo bay below. The cat crouched, watching the strange creatures move around. His tail twitched with excitement. Two Krillians began checking the walls and ceilings. Another started examining the containers more carefully. The remaining three kept their weapons aimed at potential threats. "You," the officer pointed at Dr. Hannah Green. "You seem knowledgeable. What other life forms does your ship carry?" Hannah swallowed hard. "We have plant samples, some bacteria cultures for research, and—" A small sound interrupted her. High-pitched and curious. All eyes turned upward to where the sound came from. Whiskers was leaning forward, pressing his face against the grate. The cat was intrigued by the movement below. To him, these big creatures were like slow, clumsy prey. His hunting instincts were activating. "There!" one of the Krillian warriors shouted. "Up there!" The officer looked up and saw a pair of bright, green eyes staring down at them. At first, he couldn't quite process what he was seeing. The eyes were too small, too bright. They moved with a predator's focus. "What is that thing?" he demanded. Ben Harris tried to think of something to say, but before he could speak, Whiskers made his move. The cat pushed his paw against the grate. The old fasteners gave way, and the grate fell with a clatter. Whiskers, surprised by this development, did what cats often do when startled. He lost his balance and fell. Cats, however, have amazing reflexes. Even as he fell, Whiskers twisted in the air. His small body oriented itself perfectly. His tail acted as a rudder, steering him as he dropped the 15 feet to the cargo bay floor. The Krillians watched in amazement as this small creature performed an aerial maneuver that would challenge their own warriors. Whiskers landed softly on all four paws, right in the center of their defensive formation. The cargo bay fell silent. Whiskers sat down and began cleaning his fur, completely unimpressed by his audience. To him, this was just a normal Tuesday. The Krillian officer stared at the cat. By the void, it's a miniature predator. That's just our ship's morale officer, Sam Williams said quickly. He helps keep the crew happy on long missions. But the Krillians weren't paying attention to the humans anymore. They were focused entirely on Whiskers. The small tabby had caught their complete attention in a way that no human had managed. Whiskers, sensing the attention, looked up at the nearest Krillian. The warrior stood over 8 feet tall, covered in armor and armed with plasma weapons. The cat tilted his head, assessing this new creature. Then Whiskers did something that changed everything. He narrowed his eyes and focused on the Krillian's foot. His pupils dilated to thin slits. His ears flattened slightly. His tail began to twitch with the distinctive rhythm of a hunting cat. The Krillian warrior took a step back. It's in hunting stance. Nonsense. The officer tried to dismiss it. Look at its size. It couldn't harm a... Whiskers suddenly sprang forward. He didn't attack the warrior. He was playing. But to the alien warriors, it looked like a miniature apex predator had just demonstrated lightning-fast reflexes and perfect predatory movement. The startled Krillian stumbled backward, crashing into a container. His warrior training, honed for combat against large enemies, failed him against something so small and quick. Whiskers, delighted with this new game, crouched down. His rear end wiggled as he prepared to pounce again. His bright green eyes locked onto the warrior's foot. This was the most fun he'd had since being stuck on the boring spaceship. "Commander," one of the warriors called out in their own language. "The predator is targeting my foot." The Krillian officer couldn't believe what he was seeing. These tiny predators moved with incredible precision. Their eyes tracked movements with deadly focus. Their reactions were faster than anything he'd encountered. Back on the bridge, Jack was fielding questions from Vextar about the sounds coming from the cargo bay. "Your warriors seem to be having some difficulty with the inspection," he noted carefully. "What is that creature in your cargo bay?" Vextar demanded. "What are its capabilities?" Jack felt sweat on his forehead. "That's just Whiskers. He's harmless. He's a cat. We brought him for company." "Cat?" Vextar's translator struggled with the word. "Is this some form of biological weapon? Your warriors keep such creatures as weapons?" No. He's a pet, a companion animal. Many humans keep them in their homes." Meanwhile, in the cargo bay, Whiskers had discovered a new game. He found that if he moved quickly, the big aliens would make funny noises and jump. He darted between the legs of one warrior, chased his own tail in a circle that made another warrior step backward, and then sat perfectly still until they relaxed before pouncing playfully again. The Krillians, trained for battle against formidable enemies, found themselves completely unprepared for guerrilla tactics from a 4-pound tabby. Every time they thought they knew where the cat would be, he appeared somewhere else. Dr. Hannah Green, thinking quickly, decided to embrace the misunderstanding. "Yes, our Earth predators are highly trained. We've evolved alongside them for thousands of years. They're very efficient." A warrior tried to grab at Whiskers, but the cat easily slipped away, leaving only a tuft of fur in the alien's massive hand. The warrior examined the fur with something that looked like respect. "It sheds camouflage fibers," he reported to his officer. "These creatures mark their territory." "And you keep them on your ship?" the officer asked Sam Williams. "Of course," Sam replied, gaining confidence. "Every proper Earth vessel has at least one. Some have multiple units." Whiskers, satisfied with his playtime, began to groom himself again. He licked his paw and rubbed it over his ear, a gesture that the Krillians watched with fascination. "It's maintaining its weapons," another warrior observed. "See how it cleans its claws?" The Krillian officer sent a message to Admiral Vextar through his communication device. "Commander, the humans have small predator units aboard their vessel. They appear to be more advanced than initial reports suggested." On the bridge, Vextar received this message with growing concern. Small predators? Advanced? What exactly had his empire encountered in these humans? Jack saw the Admiral's expression change. Maybe, he thought, there was hope yet. Back on the bridge, Admiral Vextar paced like a caged animal. His dark eyes kept glancing at the communications panel, waiting for another update from his warriors in the cargo bay. The humans could see he was troubled by something, though they couldn't quite understand what. "Your ship is full of surprises," Vextar said slowly. "These pets you speak of. Tell me more about them." Captain Jack tried to keep his voice calm. "Well, cats have been companions to humans for thousands of years. They're independent creatures, excellent hunters, but mostly they just sleep and play." "Hunters?" Vexitar's head tilted. "How do they hunt?" Dr. Amy Peterson, the ship's psychologist, noticed something in the alien's tone. "Fear? No, that couldn't be right. The galaxy's most feared predator, afraid of a house cat? They hunt small prey," Jack explained. "Mice, birds, sometimes insects. They use stealth, speed, and precision. Their night vision is excellent, and their reflexes are incredibly quick." From the ventilation system came another sound. Whiskers had found a new route and was climbing above the bridge. The light tapping of his paws echoed softly in the walls. Commander Ryan Carter saw an opportunity. "There are actually many types of predators on Earth. Big ones, small ones, ones that hunt in packs, ones that hunt alone." "Show me," Vextar demanded. "Show me these predators." Lady Kate Wilson quickly pulled up the ship's database of Earth wildlife. Images appeared on the main screen. Lions stalking across savanna, tigers hidden in tall grass, wolves hunting in snow. Each image froze for a moment before moving to the next. But it was when a video of a house cat playing began that something changed in the bridge atmosphere. The video showed a tabby cat, remarkably similar to Whiskers, stalking a toy mouse. The cat's eyes focused intensely, its body lowered. Its rear end wiggled as it prepared to pounce. Admiral Vexistar took an involuntary step backward. "That hunting stance," he whispered. "I've seen it before." The video continued. The cat pounced with lightning speed, its paws batting at the toy with remarkable precision. Then it rolled onto its back, playing and wrestling with its prey. "You keep these creatures for pleasure?" Vextar asked, his voice strange. Dr. Peterson stepped forward. "Admiral, may I ask something? You seem disturbed by our cat. Is there a reason?" Vextar's translator clicked and whirred as he spoke slowly. "On Krylia, our homeworld, we have legends, stories of predators that came during the Age of Darkness, small predators that hunted us when we were young, before we developed space travel." The bridge crew exchanged glances. This was unexpected. "They were called Minty," Vexitar continued. "Tiny hunters that moved in shadows. They had eyes that glowed. They could see in darkness. They never grew larger than a Krylian child's foot, but they were fearless. They would attack anything. Ensign." Tyler Williams couldn't help asking, "What happened to them?" "We wiped them out," Vextar said flatly. "Or so we thought. But the fear remains. It is taught to every Krylian child. Beware the small hunters. Your cat has many similarities." Down in the cargo bay, Whiskers was putting on quite a show. He had discovered he could make the big aliens jump by running between their legs. The Krylian warriors, trained for conventional combat, found themselves completely outmatched by feline guerrilla tactics. "Report," Vexitar spoke into his communicator. The officer in the cargo bay sounded stressed. "Admiral, the Predator unit demonstrates abilities beyond our combat projections. It appears to phase through solid matter." "Explain." "It disappears behind containers and reappears instantly somewhere else. Our weapons cannot lock onto targets this small and fast." What was actually happening was Whiskers playing hide and seek. He would dart behind one cargo container and pop out from another, playing peekaboo with the confused warriors. To them, it looked like advanced tactical movement. On the bridge, Dr. Lisa Brooks had an idea. "Admiral, would you like to meet our cat? Perhaps it would help you understand they're not dangerous." Captain Jack shot her a warning look, but Vexitar was already nodding. "Yes, bring the creature here." "Captain," Ryan Carter whispered urgently. "Are you sure about this?" Before Jack could answer, a familiar meow came from the ventilation grating above them. Whiskers had found his way back to the bridge. The cat pushed through a loose grating and dropped down onto the nearest console. He landed perfectly, tail held high, and looked around at all the faces staring at him. Every Krillian on the bridge, all 6 of them, took several steps backward. Whiskers, the social creature he was, hopped down from the console and walked right up to Admiral Vextar. The 8-foot alien warrior stood frozen as the small tabby approached him. The cat sniffed at Vextar's armored foot, then did something that changed galactic history. He rubbed against the alien admiral's leg and began to purr. The deep rumbling sound filled the bridge. To human ears, it was a comforting sound. To Krillian ears, it sounded like a miniature engine of death warming up. "It's marking me," Vextar said in a strangled voice. "The creature is claiming me as prey." "He likes you," Jack said, amazed. "He's being friendly." But Vextar didn't move. Whiskers continued rubbing against his leg, purring louder. The cat then sat down and began cleaning his paw, completely at ease. Dr. Peterson observed the aliens carefully. "Admiral, your warriors are afraid of our cat." "Not afraid," Vextar protested. Then more quietly, "Cautious. We are always cautious of small predators. Your database shows you have mastered not just one species, but many. How did your people achieve this?" Matt Johnson, the chief engineer, spoke up without thinking. "Oh, we didn't master them. They chose to live with us. It's a partnership. They hunt our pests, we give them food and shelter." "You're saying," Vextar's translator struggled with the concept, "these predators protect your food supplies?" "Well, yes," Jack confirmed. "They keep rats and mice away from food stores." "And they operate independently, without direct commands?" "Exactly. They're very independent thinkers." Vextar looked at Whiskers, who was now washing his face with his paw. "This small predator thinks for itself? Makes tactical decisions?" "Absolutely," Dr. Brooks added enthusiastically. "Cats are known for their problem-solving abilities. They can open doors, understand complex mechanisms, and adapt their hunting strategies." The Krillian admiral stared at the small tabby cat with a mixture of respect and wariness. In his mind, he was calculating the implications. Humans had formed alliances with miniature tactical predators. These predators operated independently, showed advanced hunting skills, and apparently accepted humans as equals rather than prey. Whiskers looked up at Vextar. The cat's bright green eyes met the alien's dark ones. Then Whiskers did something that sealed the deal. He blinked slowly, a cat's way of showing trust. To human observers, it was adorable. To Vextar, it looked like a predator assessing him and finding him acceptable. "Commander," Vextar spoke into his communicator. "Cease inspection immediately. Prepare to disengage." The cargo bay officer responded with clear relief. "Yes, Admiral. The Predator unit has marked several of our warriors. We need to decontaminate." Whiskers, bored with sitting still, jumped back onto a console and then up to a higher ledge. He moved with fluid grace that the Krillians watched with something like reverence. "Your species," Vextar said to Jack, "has accomplished what we thought impossible. You've turned predators into allies." "Actually," Jack said carefully, "I think they turned us into their allies, but it works out pretty well for both species." As the Krillian boarding party began to withdraw, Whiskers decided the big aliens deserved one final demonstration. He jumped from his ledge, performed a perfect mid-air twist, and landed precisely on Vextar's shoulder. The massive alien admiral stood perfectly still as the cat balanced on his armor. Whiskers, satisfied with his new high perch, began to purr again. "Your Predator unit," Vextar said carefully, "appears to have claimed me." Jack bit back a smile. "He tends to do that. It's a sign of affection." As the USS Freedom and its crew watched the Krillian warriors retreat, one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same in the galaxy's balance of power, all because of one small orange tabby cat. Admiral Vextar returned to his massive battlecruiser with Whiskers' orange fur still clinging to his armor. His officers looked at him with confusion when he entered the bridge. No one had ever seen their admiral move so carefully before. Start. A full retreat, Vextar ordered. Maximum distance from the human vessel. His first officer, Commander Sektar, stepped forward. Sir, we haven't completed our inspection. Inspection is complete, Vextar said firmly. Transmit this message to all Krillian ships in this sector. Avoid engagement with human vessels. They possess advanced biological warfare capabilities. Aboard the USS Freedom, the crew watched in amazement as the giant Krillian battlecruiser slowly pulled away. Jack's fingers were still shaking as he scratched Whisker's head. The cat had jumped back into his arms and was purring contentedly. Captain, said Lieutenant Ben Harris from the communication station, I'm picking up Krillian transmissions. They're warning all their ships about us? What are they saying? Jack asked. They're calling Earth a predator planet. They're saying humans have tamed miniature death units and used them for tactical purposes. Dr. Hannah Green began recording notes on her datapad. We need to document this event carefully. We may have accidentally created the most successful first contact in space exploration history. Over the next few days, something remarkable happened. The USS Freedom continued its mission, but everywhere they went, word had already spread. When they approached the space station at Nexus Point, the docking controller's voice trembled as she gave them landing instructions. Human vessel Freedom, you are cleared for emergency docking. Please keep your Predator units contained. Our Predator units? Jack asked, confused. Yes, sir. We've heard about your cats. Inside the station, alien species of all kinds gave the crew a wide berth. Krillian traders moved rapidly out of their way. A merchant from the Zelix system whispered to his companion, Those are the humans. They walk with small predators. At the station's marketplace, Dr. Amy Peterson overheard more conversations while browsing alien fruit. Two insectoid traders spoke in hushed tones. They carry creatures that think like warriors but act independently. I heard they can phase through walls and operate in complete darkness. They have thousands of species on one planet, all predators. When Amy returned to the ship, she found Jack having a video conference with Earth Command. Whiskers sat on the desk beside him, grooming his tail. Captain Miller, said Admiral Susan Clark from Earth Command. We've received some unusual reports. Apparently, the Krillian Empire has classified Earth as a high-risk tactical zone. Jack cleared his throat. Yes, Admiral. It seems there was a misunderstanding involving my cat. Your cat? Whiskers, sir. Jack gestured to the tabby on his desk. The Krillians believe Earth has mastered predatory creatures for military purposes. Admiral Clark stared at the screen in disbelief. And you're telling me we now have a defense treaty with the most aggressive empire in the galaxy because of a house cat? Not just a treaty, Admiral. They're avoiding our entire sector of space. Meanwhile, Whiskers continued his daily routine as if nothing had changed. He slept for 14 hours, chased imaginary bugs, and occasionally played with a small laser pointer that Ensign Tyler Williams had made. But the effects of his accidental diplomacy were far-reaching. 2 weeks later, the USS Freedom encountered their first real test. A pirate ship tried to board them near the Gamma trade route, but as soon as they identified the Freedom as human, they immediately withdrew. Captain, the pirate leader stammered over the communicator. We didn't realize you were from the Predator planet. We're leaving now. Please don't release your tactical units. Our what now? Jack asked, but the pirates had already jumped to warp speed. Sam Williams turned to his crewmates in the cargo bay. Did we just get away from pirates because they're afraid of cats? The crew began testing this new advantage. They made a point of mentioning their defense systems to other species they met. Word spread even faster. Yes, we have multiple Predator units aboard, Jack would say during diplomatic meetings. They're quite effective. Other human ships began reporting similar experiences. The Earth transport vessel Endeavour was having trouble with Graxian customs officers at the border station. As soon as they mentioned having cats aboard, the officers completed their inspection in record time and waved them through. Dr. Lisa Brooks started keeping a log of all the misconceptions about Earth animals. Cats were described as tactical, Assassination units humans were said to have psychic bonds with predators. Some aliens believed humans could command entire armies of trained animals. The rumor spread that Earth had weaponized evolution. The truth was, the misunderstanding went both ways. Literary Kate Wilson discovered that many alien species had never developed alongside predatory animals. Most had evolved on worlds with only one dominant predator: themselves. No wonder they're so freaked out, she told Ryan Carter. Imagine if you grew up never seeing a predator smaller than yourself, and then suddenly you meet creatures that keep predators as pets. 4 weeks after the encounter, Whiskers achieved another milestone. He learned how to use the ship's automatic doors by waving his paw in front of the sensors. This skill, as simple as it was, became legendary throughout the sector when word got out. The predators can activate security systems. Alien traders whispered in spaceports. They understand technology. Back on Earth, the news was causing quite a stir. Pet stores reported increased sales as people rushed to get cats, thinking they might need them for space travel. The government had to issue statements clarifying that while cats were welcome on space missions, they weren't actually military equipment. But the damage, or benefit, was done. Where once humanity had been seen as an insignificant new species, to the galactic community, they were now respected and slightly feared. Other alien civilizations began studying Earth's ecosystem, trying to understand how one planet could produce so many predators that all cooperated with each other. On one memorable occasion, Jack had to explain the concept of dogs to a visiting Threx diplomat. The reptilian being listened in awe as Jack described how humans had larger tactical units that were loyal, trainable, and could detect threats from long distances. And you keep these predators in your homes? With your offspring? The diplomat asked, clearly horrified. Of course, Jack said, confused. Their family. The diplomat hurried back to his ship, adding even more to Earth's growing reputation. As the USS Freedom continued its mission, Whiskers slept peacefully on his favorite warm engine console, unaware that he had single-handedly changed humanity's standing in the galaxy. Sometimes he would open one eye, stretch, and go back to sleep. The crew had learned to wake him gently for meals, understanding now that startling a tactical unit might be misinterpreted by any alien visitors. The galaxy's perspective on Earth had shifted dramatically. No longer were humans seen as weak newcomers. They were now viewed as a species that had achieved the impossible, living in harmony with predators. Some alien cultures looked upon this with fear, others with respect, but all with a new understanding that Earth was not to be trifled with, and all because of one small orange tabby cat who just wanted to take a nap in the sun. 6 months after the first encounter with the Krillian Empire, Captain Jack Miller stood at Starbase Alpha, surrounded by the biggest gathering of human and alien species he'd ever seen. The massive space station buzzed with activity as species from across the galaxy had come to witness a historic moment. Whiskers was there too, sleeping in his travel carrier, unaware of all the fuss. I still can't believe this is happening, Jack told Captain Maria Sullivan of the USS Discovery. They watched as aliens pointed at his carrier and whispered to each other in various languages. Believe it, Jack, Maria replied. Your cat changed. Everything. Every Earth ship that goes out there now is treated with respect instead of being targeted for scavenging. Admiral Vexitar himself had returned to meet Jack again. This time, however, there were no weapons. The massive Krillian approached, slowly, his dark scales gleaming under the station's lights. Captain Miller, Vexitar spoke respectfully. I bring news that will please you. And what news is that, Admiral? Vexitar produced a formal document. The Krillian Empire wishes to propose a treaty, a non-aggression pact between our people and the masters of small predators. Commander Alex Thompson, who stood nearby listening, tried hard not to laugh. The whole situation was still ridiculous, but no one dared say it out loud. We accept, Jack said simply. It seemed foolish to correct the misunderstanding when it was bringing peace to the galaxy. Chief Medical Officer Nina Patel had been studying the psychological effects of the entire situation. She stepped forward with her findings. Admiral, may I ask why your people specifically fear small predators? Vextar nodded slowly. Our evolution was shaped by the Minty. They hunted us when we were young, vulnerable. We grew large to survive them. But the fear remains in our minds. Your cats, they trigger those ancient memories. But our cats are harmless, Jack tried to explain. Perhaps, Vextar replied. But they move like the Minty. They hunt with the same focus. They mark territory in the same way. To us, they represent what hunted us for millions of years. Back aboard the USS Freedom, the crew had adapted to their new status. They'd created T-shirts with Whisker's face and the words, Earth Defense Cat. The cat had his own social media accounts run by Ensign Tyler Williams, where aliens could watch videos of him playing with toys. One day, they received a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. The screen flickered to show Speaker Tovarin, a dignified figure with 6 arms and crystalline skin. The Galactic Council officially recognizes Earth's status as a Predator Alliance world, she announced. Your unique relationship with predatory species has proven to be diplomatically advantageous. Thank you, Speaker, Jack replied. We didn't really set out to create a Predator Alliance, but we're happy to be peaceful members of the galactic community. There is more, Tovarin continued. Other species wish to learn from Earth. Perhaps some could adopt predators for themselves. Jack imagined various aliens trying to domesticate tigers. That might take some time, he said diplomatically. The success of the cat diplomacy, as Earth News Services called it, inspired other approaches. Human ships began displaying images of their pets prominently. One transport captain reported that showing pictures of his golden retriever made Graxian pirates surrender immediately. They think I'm transporting a wolf, Captain Jenkins laughed during a debriefing. They won't go near my ship now. Dr. Hannah Green started an educational exchange program. Alien scientists visited Earth to study how humans and predators coexisted. Meanwhile, human biologists learned about alien evolution, worlds where single predators dominated, where prey had no natural hunters, or where species had evolved without any carnivores at all. On one memorable day, Whiskers accidentally solved another diplomatic crisis. A territorial dispute between the Zealox and Fenty had reached a standstill. The mediators were getting nowhere until Jack mentioned that sometimes cats resolve their differences by simply occupying the same space peacefully. The aliens, desperate for any solution that didn't involve warfare, asked to witness this. Jack brought Whiskers to a viewing platform where 2 alien ambassadors sat on opposite sides of the room. Whiskers, being a cat, ignored the tension entirely. He walked to the center of the room, curled up in a sunbeam coming through the window, and went to sleep. See? Jack pointed out. He's in neither territory but both. He belongs there equally. The aliens stared at the sleeping cat for a long moment. Then, to everyone's surprise, they began to laugh, a sound that translated as relief and recognition. The Predator shows us the way, the Zealox ambassador said. By occupying neutral space, we both claim victory, the Fenty added. The territorial dispute was resolved with a Whiskers zone established as a shared meeting ground. Earth's reputation for wisdom grew even stronger. Back on the USS Freedom, Dr. Amy Peterson continued studying the long-term effects of the misunderstanding. She found that it had actually strengthened Earth's position because it forced other species to view humanity differently. We're no longer the new species begging for attention, she explained to Jack. We're seen as an established power. Other civilizations respect our approach to conflict resolution and biological cooperation. A year after their first encounter, the USS Freedom returned to Earth for maintenance. Jack carried Whiskers out of their shuttle into the spaceport where dozens of reporters waited. Cameras focused on the small tabby as if he were the most important dignitary in the universe. How does it feel to have the most famous cat in space? A reporter asked Jack. Honestly, Jack replied, stroking Whiskers' fur as the cat purred. I think he's pretty much the same. He still sleeps 16 hours a day, knocks things off tables, and demands treats at 3 a.m. The reporter looked confused. But he's changed the galaxy's power structure. Jack glanced down at Whiskers, who was now trying to chew on the microphone cord. That's the funny thing about cats. They'll change the universe by accident while they're planning their next nap. As they left the spaceport, Jack reflected on everything that had happened. A simple house cat had become Earth's greatest diplomat. Fear had turned to respect, and respect had brought peace across multiple star systems. Months later, as the USS Freedom prepared for another mission, Jack stood on the bridge watching stars through the window. Whiskers sat on his lap, purring softly. The ship's sensors picked up multiple alien vessels nearby, all giving the Freedom plenty of space just as they had promised. "Captain," said Ryan Carter with a grin, "we're receiving another tribute from the Krillian Empire. They're sending more of those dried fish treats that Whiskers likes." "Of course they are," Jack smiled, scratching Whiskers' chin. "They still think he's a weapon." The little tabby cat yawned, stretched, and settled back down for another nap. Outside the window, a galaxy that had once seemed hostile now offered safe passage to any Earthship that carried the symbol of cooperation between humans and predators. In the end, the greatest revolution in galactic politics hadn't come from advanced weapons or complex treaties. It had come from a cat being exactly what cats have always been: small, independent, and completely unimpressed by everything around them. And sometimes, Jack thought as Whiskers' purring filled the quiet, bridge, that's exactly what the universe needed.